So you're doing that for a period of time at Duke.
Right.
And then
so I was doing that during the day, and that kind of paid the bills. And then during the evening, I was still kind of collaborating with some of the other co-founders and some other people in the area on some other startup ideas, and kind of working towards those in the evenings and on the weekends, and staying up
you're
late
at
night.
spare time. Plentiful spare time gets applied to startup companies. Okay.
Yeah. So
any ideas come from that, or was it all sort of?
Actually, the one, I think the best idea that came from that was, actually I found it is a company that exists called Innocentive, and there's another guy in the innovation entrepreneurship program who's studied this company, and basically what the idea is to take some problem that people in industry are having that they can't seem to find a solution for within their own companies, and to basically set up a competition for people, different teams from across the country to try and solve this.
The power of a prize fund goes a long way to inspiring people to apply what they know and solve problems.
Certainly.
And I suppose you're also much broader catch basin of people.
Yeah.
Inside a company, it's only your employees. Outside your company, it's the world of people with good ideas. And a little bit of money goes a long way.
Right.
So you had the idea independently?
I had the idea independently and kind of put together a team to pursue it, but then around the time when I decided I was going to apply to PhD programs, I kind of turned it over to them
and they let them,
let them have it, and so I guess this other company has gotten much further.
That's fair. So you applied to doctoral studies, and what inspired your thinking about that? Did you know where you wanted to go, what you wanted to do at that point already?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, basically I had come to realize at that point that the field of entrepreneurship as an area of academic study was very young.
That's true, yeah.
And so it's something that's really exciting for anyone with kind of a...
Where young equals, this is nothing like the decades of depth of economics or of strategy. I mean, those are marketing, right? Those are classic disciplines, at least in the business context. Well understood, lots of lore associated with them.
Right.
Entrepreneurship is none of that.
Yeah, and so, here's this huge driver of economic growth, social welfare, and so on, and, we know very little about, actually how it happens, what the determinants of success are, anything. So here's this huge potential to come in and really make a contribution to this area. And
it's the best place to be, right? When a field is not well mined, there's lots of raw material still to extract from the ferment.
Exactly.
Well, for those of you just joining us here, this is High Tech Fever. I'm your host, Joost Bonsen. My guest today, Chuck Eesley, who is a doctoral student at the MIT Sloan School of Management in the Management of Technological Innovation and Entrepreneurship Group, which is one of the research veins within the business school at MIT. Chuck, you mentioned you decided to apply to doctoral studies in entrepreneurship, as opposed to, say, business school in an MBA sense, because you wanted to step back and understand the phenomenon of entrepreneurship, at least in one or various ways. Mm-hmm. And you applied to several schools, I imagine, and decided on MIT. Why?
Right. Well, clearly MIT is a great tradition in high-tech entrepreneurship, and so for someone
you wanted to focus on technology-based, as opposed to, entrepreneurship is a very broad concept.
Right. So entrepreneurship,
startups, restaurants, all that.
Yeah, it could be a whole host of different activities. It could even be kind of academic entrepreneurship in terms of building university departments and so on.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose that's true. Sure, of course.
Yeah, but I guess
start a new discipline is sort of an entrepreneurial task in an academic context. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but my particular interest, kind of given my science background and experience in biotech, is really kind of the more high-tech, science-based entrepreneurship, which I think is really going to be important in the future as kind of new fields are created, as we explore new areas of science, and I think this is going to be a growing trend.
Well, so you're in the right place. MIT certainly has a long history, as ardent viewers of the show will know, of spinning out or inspiring people, educating people
Right.
interested in technology ventures.
Yeah. So if you want to learn about that kind of high tech entrepreneurship, MIT is really the place to be.
But you're a scholar of the phenomenon as opposed to somebody who's a practitioner of it. MIT seems to be, and Harvard and Tufts and BU. I mean, the greater Cambridge metro area is ripe with university-based research, the sort of economic entrepreneurial cluster that's around us, or at least various flavors of business sectors, also very entrepreneurial, spinning off lots of companies. We're in rich terrain here, and you got lots, I suppose, to study. What have you chosen to concentrate on? Well, first of all, do you choose already, or are you've been at this for what, a year or two now?
Yeah, just finished the first year. So initially a lot of it is driven by your advisor and kind of the data that they have available and the projects that they're working on.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I've gotten my start, and I've been lucky that my advisor Ed Roberts had this large data set that he and another co-collaborator had
Dave
collected.
Shue, who's been on the show.
Dave Shue.
Fantastic. You working with Ed Roberts, I mean, it should be mentioned that Professor Roberts at MIT is not only himself a multi-company entrepreneur, an alumnus from the place, started consulting companies, started medical information technology company, and several others. And is the chairman of the MIT Entrepreneurship Center, right? Is really sort of the academic head of this whole effort. And speaking as a former head of the MIT now 100K entrepreneurship competition, it was Professor Roberts who was very instrumental in helping us secure the monies and acting as sort of an academic advisor to this very practical activity. So he's been a long-time scholar of this stuff and an author of a book on high technology entrepreneurship. So the ideal advisor in some ways to get you going on entrepreneurial studies. So you're working with him. He's got a set of data, and you're. Do you have time for that, or do you have to take classes? How does that work?
Yeah,
in starting a doctoral program in this area, what do you actually have to do in your first year?
Right. So the first year and actually the first 2 years are very heavy on coursework.
Okay.
So the first year you mainly the majority of your time is spent on coursework, and I sort of knew this coming in, but when I had interviewed, Ed had mentioned this data set, and so kind of having.
So here you are having to do required classes, right? And I'm sure you're doing them.
Yeah.
But you're also doing the data analysis.
Yeah, and so that has now turned to become the nighttime and weekend activity.
Well, just for completeness, what does a doctoral student in entrepreneurship study? I mean, just to lay it out. I mean, is it economically focused, sociology, entrepreneurship? Is there are lots of things to be read there? What kind of
you basically have your choice, which academic discipline you want to kind of approach this from. You could approach it from a sociological perspective, as many people have done. Howard Aldridge is a great professor at UNC who's done a lot of work in that area. You can approach it from the economics perspective. You could even approach it from the psychological perspective.
And so each of those, how do they differ? And so a psychologist would look at the inner motivations of the entrepreneur. A sociologist would look at.
Yeah, so they differ in terms of what questions you're going to ask, and then also kind of what methods and what tools you're going to bring to answering those questions. So a psychologist would ask questions about kind of the cognitive framework of the entrepreneur, kind of questions about, are they over optimistic? Are they risk averse?
Attitude,
less risk
outlook.
averse? Right. Whereas sociological perspective is going to look more at kind of the phenomenon of people forming organizations, forming groups, those types of questions.
So, for example, comparing the rate with which people form groups in one country or one region versus other regions. I mean, is the difference between a